Hey, everybody, it is Greg Kettner. Thank you for tuning in. We'll give everybody just another minute to check out or to check in. Sorry. You might be able to tell my Canadian accent. But just want to take a couple moments this morning to share with you about how to talk about mental health in the workplace. I get a lot of comments from clients, from organizations that I work with on how do we bring up the topic, how do we approach it? Because my belief is in business we need to put people before profits, because when we do that, that's where the magic happens. That's how we sustain revenue. That's how we grow our company, and most importantly, that's how we take care of each other. So if people are just checking in, want to give a quick shout out to Tia Graham. She is the author, a speaker as well too. Be a Happy Leader, a great book on how to lead with happiness. A good friend, and she does LinkedIn Lives as well too. So she's inspired me to do this, as well as my coach Craig Hurd, who is always encouraging me, and I'm doing this more and more. So thank you both for that. But let's get started. I want to take 10, 12 minutes and just share with you some things that I've learned personally and professionally on how to talk about mental health, how to normalize that conversation in the workplace. If you don't know me yet, my name is Greg Kettner. I'm the founder of Work Happy Nation, and I help organizations normalize the conversations around mental health, both at work and at home, because it's very, very important that we have a support group and that we can help each other. And there's a lot of benefits from talking about mental health, from working on ourselves, self care. So I help organizations how to take their employees from stress to self care, from being lonely to a sense of community, and from being overwhelmed to more productive. Quick question. If you want, you can chat and put any comments, or if you have any questions as we go along, feel free to put those in. I am just trying to look at on here if I am. I can't see it on my LinkedIn league, but anyway, I will follow up with you at the end. I'm learning StreamYard; it's great. But yeah, if you have any comments, feel free to put them in, and feel free to reach out if any of this resonates with you. But first off, how stressed are you right now? Are you working in the office? Or are you working from home? Or are you just having one of those days where you feel overwhelmed? Don't need to put in the chat. Don't need to share with anybody. But how stressed are you on a scale of 1 to 10? One being like, oh my God, I'm really struggling. I need to talk to someone. And 10, it's a great day. I woke up, the dog still likes me, and I'm going golfing, which is me today. So, how stressed are you? But three things I want to talk about and share with you on how we can normalize the conversation, mental health. One, have the courage to do it. Two, be vulnerable, because sharing is caring. And we all struggle with our mental health, anxiety, stress, overwhelm, all those sorts of things. So we're not alone. And then also, too, ask again. A lot of times I'll ask a friend or a colleague or a coaching client or an organization, leader in an organization, how are you doing? They're like, oh, great. And typically that's where we end the conversation. I don't know why that is, but we're trying to normalize it, trying to make a difference in how we talk and how we communicate. And I was just talking to Rachel, my daughter, this morning before she left for school, and I said, I'm doing this LinkedIn Live. What advice would you give? Because our whole family has gone through this over the last 4 years. And she said the best information or information that she gave me was she said, Greg, have conversations versus interrogations. When you're talking to a friend or a colleague or even a stranger for that matter, have a conversation. And when you bring up, hey, Elliot, how are you? Um, Bring up the conversation. How are you? Ask them how they're doing, what their life, and then you can share with them about what's going on in your life. Maybe there's stress at work, maybe there's stress at school with your kids, or maybe finances. But if you lead with a conversation versus an interrogation, I thought that was a really great point from a wonderful young woman who helps her friends as well. And I think the conversation of mental health in the workplace has always been a scary one. Sometimes people feel like they might be misunderstood. People feel like they might not get a job or a raise or a promotion, those kinds of things. So it has this weird feel about it. But if we can normalize it, it'll be a lot easier for everybody. Statistics show that 1 in 5 adults suffer from some sort of mental health in 2022. That's 20% of us working adults suffer from mental health issues, which is a lot. So 20% of the people listening or watching the replay right now, are suffering from it in various degrees. So the point being is that you're not alone. And during COVID, mental health ER visits have increased by 41%. I think it's better now that we're able to be outside, see each other's faces again, and be somewhat normalized. But again, we're all in this together. We all have our quirks. We all have our sticks. Like my friend Eric Cussin says, we're all a little bit crazy. So I just want to help give a couple of tips this morning on how we can do that. A little background on how I got into speaking and talking about mental health. 4 years ago, March 18th, my wife Becky woke me up at 2 o'clock in the morning and said, "We need to talk." And I thought, what did I do? I had no idea what the conversation was going to lead to, but she said Grant passed away, and Grant is Rachel's dad. So we found this out through a phone call, and we were up all night trying to figure out how to tell our daughter that her dad had passed away. So we did a bunch of research on Google, and luckily, both my brother and a dear friend of ours, Nikki Sharp, here in town, are psychologists. So we called them early in the morning before Rachel woke up. And that was the start, really, of the journey that I've had with mental health. When I was in high school, I had a dear friend pass away from suicide. And after college, I had another friend pass away. And I always thought, man, it's horrible. What can I do? But now I know how to do that. So through a lot of therapy, a lot of laughter, a lot of tears, and a lot of education, our family is doing really well. Sure, there's days, when it's overwhelm and sadness, especially with Rachel, but we get through it, and we get through it by talking, by being open about it, and being honest, and just having conversations, and again, not interrogating people. So now, I like I said, I work with organizations. I coach people one-on-one how to work happy. And one beautiful story that came out of a presentation, I was speaking at a sports conference in Las Vegas back in August, and it was an open forum. And sports organizations are very type A, male dominated. I'm good. I work a lot of hours. That's my badge of pride and whatnot. So I was wondering how the conversation was going to go, but it was an open forum. Myself, Michelle, and Brett, we just started out, said, "Hey, look, this is a conversation about mental health in the workplace and how to talk about it." And we shared our stories, which is a great way to do it. If you're leading an organization, or if you have people that follow you, start the conversation yourself, which is really helpful. And so we did. We each shared our own story and our own journey. And then we just opened it up for questions. And one gentleman asked, he shared a story about how when he was managing one of his ticket reps, he found out that his father had passed away by suicide, and he didn't know what to say, or he didn't know how to bring up the conversation. And so we talked about it. I shared what happened when we found out that Rachel's dad had passed away. Later that day, we had several friends show up, dear friends. And one showed up with a big 4-gallon bucket of ice cream, a bunch of cookies. And they said, "We heard what happened. We're sorry. We don't know what to say." And that was all that we needed to hear. We heard that people cared. We heard that people didn't understand it, just like we didn't understand it at the time. But they were there. They cared. And they said, "We don't know what to do. We don't know what to say, but we're here for you." The other family dropped by as well later on the day. dropped by some flowers, and again said, we heard what happened. We're sorry. We don't know what to do. We don't know what to say, but we're here for you. And so that's one thing, to lead from your own perspective and share your own stories with people. So I was at this conference, and afterwards, I was walking back to my hotel room to catch the plane, and a gentleman caught up to me and said, "Hey, Greg, do you have a couple minutes?" And I did, and it turned out to be an hour. Luckily, I made my flight home. But he said to me, "Thank you so much for bringing up the conversation in a group setting with 80 people in the room. This isn't normally talked about at work. So I want to say I appreciate you and appreciate you bringing it up." And he shared his story with me. His name is Spencer. He is a senior in Boston College back east, but he had found out that he could no longer play football, and that was his lifelong dream. He had a heart condition, and things spiraled out of control, and he attempted at taking his own life 2 months before a conversation. And he said, "You're the only person I've talked to besides my mom and my therapist." And that really gave me the strength and courage to talk about mental health, to talk about other people's stories. Spencer and I still keep in touch. And I don't know if it's coincidence or whatnot, but during the NFL draft, I just reached out. I sent him a text, just around him, "Hey, buddy, hope you're doing well. When's your next gig?" He's in a band. And he said, "I'm kind of struggling today, Greg." And I said, "Well, why? How can I help?" And he shared with me that this was his draft year. This was the year he would have been drafted in the National Football League, lifelong. And so we just chatted for a bit, and fortunately, he had his girlfriend was with him, his friends were supporting him. But that's what we need to do. We need to lead with empathy. We need to lead with understanding. And as a leader of a company or organization or a group of friends, share your story first. And it doesn't have to be suicide. It doesn't have to be bipolar. It doesn't have to be severe anxiety. But if you start a conversation, I had a really stressful day yesterday. None of my calls went well. The dog was sick, and I didn't get to see my friends, right? And that can lead into a conversation. And when you have those conversations and you build trust, people are willing to talk even more about it. Another story, just quickly, was I was speaking at a conference, a REMAX conference in Seattle. Recently, there was about 80, 85 clients, and I shared the Work Happy story, all about mental health and how we can be better, stronger, faster, more productive. And afterwards, a couple of people came up to the back of the room and said, "Thank you for sharing the story." And so we had a brief conversation, exchanged information. And then later that day, when I was driving home, I got a text from a gal who said, "Thank you so much again, Greg, for bringing up the mental health conversation in the workplace. It's reminded me that I need to do that more often." And she went on to say how she had to tell her 6 and 8-year-old daughter that their dad was gone because of suicide 3 or 4 years ago. And she said, "We're doing fine, and I'd forgotten to talk about that, but I want to talk more about it with my friends." So again, how do we talk about mental health in the workplace? Number one, it's not scary. You're not going to catch it. Nothing's going to go wrong. It's just being open, empathetic, vulnerable with other people. Share your story. Share how you're affected. And when you ask somebody, "Hey, how are you doing?" and maybe you haven't heard from them a while, maybe their texting patterns or their phone calls have changed. And when you say, "Hey, how are you doing?" they're like, "Ah, good, great, yeah, whatever." Ask again, going, "You know what? How are you really doing? Because I haven't heard from you in a while. And I just want to make sure that your mental health is good, because this is the most important real estate that we have in our lives, is between our ears." So, hey, Yusuf, good to see you as well, too. And thank you, everybody, for listening. If you want to continue the conversation, you can always reach me here on LinkedIn. You can email me. My email is greg@gregkettner.com. But remember these three things. Have the courage to share your journey with mental health with others. Be vulnerable, and ask the question again, how are you really doing? Like, seriously, heart to heart, how are you doing? And you'll be surprised. It's not a scary conversation, perhaps starting the conversation, but it's so fulfilling. And when we have these conversations, people can get help, People can feel like they belong. People feel like they matter. And at the end of the day, that's what really counts. So thanks again for tuning in. We'll be doing this again next Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I appreciate you. If you're watching the replay, just type in hashtag replay. But if you have any questions about how to talk about mental health in the workplace, I would love to have a conversation with you. Thanks. Have a great day and take care of one another. Be kind. Cheers.